Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video that I'm shocked I haven't done before on my channel, and that is marriage and trouble romances. And this is one of my favorite tropes, but I think I was waiting to get more read for you, and then I just never did this video. But I love a good marriage and trouble romance because the couple has a lot of history together. Marriage and trouble romances do revolve around the fact that they are struggling with something and they aren't able to communicate with one another, whether that's another person causing drama in their relationship. Many do deal with infertility or struggle getting pregnant, so please know that when you pick up these books. I will try to tell you if I remember if there is that trigger for pregnancy, anything like that, because I think that is common in these books. But I am really excited to talk about these. Some are old favorites, some are new. I have a couple historical, but most of the rest are contemporary, so I will go ahead and get to the recommendations. I'm just going to start off with my favorite, Get Out of the Way. Forget Me Not by Q.B. Tyler is one of my favorites, and they do struggle with infertility, and that's something that really drove them apart, and they were not able to communicate with one another anymore, and so they are on the verge of getting a divorce. The hero did cheat on our heroine, so please know that it's part of this book. If you don't like cheating, don't pick this up. But he cheated on her, he has to grovel, he gets amnesia, they end up being reconnected because she is called in the hospital. He's like, hey babe, like what's up? And he's like, why aren't you like kissing me hello? Like what's going on? And she's like, excuse me, we're literally about to get a divorce. He's horrified because he doesn't remember the past like 5 years that they have fallen apart, and he thinks they're still madly in love, and so he works to fight to get her back. I recently did a reread, I tabbed, I highlighted. I love the angst in this book so much, and they both are actually dating other people too, which adds a little bit to the angsty element, but I love this book so much. One of my absolute favorite marriage and trouble romances. For historical, I have Day of the Duchess. This is probably the most popular marriage and trouble romance. I do have a few more that I don't think people have necessarily read as much, but this one, our heroine and hero are about to get a divorce. I did not read the previous book, and I believe you get a little bit more details about why they aren't seeing each other, and she doesn't want to be married to him anymore. So he wants to win her back, but in order to lure her to where he lives, he's like, you're gonna help me pick a new duchess. And so she's like, fine, I will pick my replacement. So she shows up, and there's all these women there that are trying to marry him, and he's really there to win his wife back. So I really enjoy this one. I read it a while ago, but I think this is like the staple marriage and trouble historical. Definitely worth the hype. Another amnesia one I read that I really enjoyed is Asher by Carrie and Cole. This one, our hero and heroine are actually madly in love, and they both are part of rock star groups. Like he is part of a really popular band and she is in a girl band, and what happens is they are talking to each other, talking about stepping away from their lifestyle and maybe having another child, because they had a child together when I want to say they were like 15. They were super young. Now I think they're in their 30s, and they're like, we need to slow down, like I'd love to have another kid. And they are in the midst of that conversation when she actually falls into this like river. She actually is in a coma for like 8 years, and Asher's our hero. He never leaves her side. He still is touring, but he is super faithful to her still. He never strays, and she's the love of his life. And so she wakes up 8 years later with no memory of who she is, and she feels this sense of dissociation from herself. So she feels like Ember is this other person and she is herself, and she feels like she's trying to fit into someone else's life. And so Asher is horrified because this is his wife, he loves her so much, and she feels like she's not the same person. He's trying to help her through that. And so it's very emotional in that sense. It's not like they're making anything up to each other like Forget Me Not was. It is trying to figure out who she is and what she wants out of a relationship, and feeling comfortable with herself in order to then put herself into a relationship. So very interesting romance. I enjoyed it. Definitely very angsty, a little long. I listened to the audiobook and it was really good, but you can't go wrong with the Carrie and Cole. Another one I really loved is Ever After Always by Chloe Leese. This one's a marriage in trouble, and our hero and heroine actually go to therapy together. I loved seeing that in here, and our hero does have anxiety, and that's discussed a lot in here. They do discuss wanting possibly having children, so know that going into this one. But this one's part of the Bergman series. I do recommend reading the series in order because I feel like you get the most out of it, because our hero's a professor and he was in book 1, and this one they are just having trouble as a married couple, and they have to go on a family vacation together though with her family, which is so sweet, and they just have to find their way back to each other again. So I really enjoyed this. If you want one with a very strong family element with the Bergmans, you should pick this one up. Then I have one that's part of a series that I feel like is one of the least popular ones in the series, but that's Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This one's pretty popular. I really enjoyed it. Our hero and heroine are married, and our hero, the only way he can show his love is by showing that he can take care of her, and he feels like a failure if he can't take care of his wife. And so they have stopped really talking to each other. They have a really good physical relationship, but that's really it. And our heroine finally decides to tell her husband something has to change. So they kind of go into this marriage boot camp kind of situation to reevaluate their relationship, actually communicate with one another, but he doesn't understand because he's like, I'm taking care of you. That's how I show you I love you. And I really enjoy that about this book. I do enjoy this series. I haven't finished it yet. I haven't read book 3, but as a traditionally published romance, Tessa Bailey does so well. There's still lots of steam in here, which you don't really get in a lot in the traditionally published books coming out, but I really enjoy this one. This one is a good one to pick up, especially when they are trying to confront what's wrong with their relationship and trying to change things before it's too late to fix their relationship. Then I have Maybe Next Time by Christina C. Jones. This is a novella, but it's a lot of fun. Our hero and our heroine are having problems and they are married, and so our hero is talking with his friends, and his friend is like, you're the problem. Like, you need to reevaluate what you're doing and win your woman back before it's too late and you lose her. So he really puts into perspective his friend's relationship, and so he decides to pretty much kidnap his wife and take her on vacation and force them to reconcile. So I really enjoy this one. I like the forced kidnapping. I mean, I love a good kidnapping romance anyways, but it wasn't anything like that. They were already married and in love. It's just they were in a rocky patch. So if you want a novella and something where the hero's the one fighting for the heroine, I would check this one out. Now, I haven't picked a lot of love triangle ones. I don't love A Marriage in Trouble, where it's obvious from the start they're not going to pick their husband and the romance is solely focused on the relationship with someone else. And the next one I have, you do not know if she's going to choose her husband or not, but it does force her and her husband to really discuss the relationship before she decides who she wants to be with. So it is the What He Doesn't Know duet by Candy Steiner. This duet does a love triangle so well because I had no idea who she was going to pick throughout the entire book. And now this does deal with loss of a child, and so that does affect their relationship. Obviously, they have a really hard time overcoming this thing that happened to them in their marriage, and so she starts drifting away from her husband, and someone from her past comes back into the picture, and he starts showing her, I can take care of you if your husband doesn't want to. And she's like, this is a guy that I've liked my whole life. Like, I don't know what to do. And so it makes her reevaluate her husband and her relationship with this other guy. I do believe there's cheating in here, so please know that going in. But I love the angst that Candy brings in her books, and this duet was so good. You do not know who she's gonna pick, but it is A Marriage in Trouble because she is contemplating staying with her husband or leaving with someone else who she thinks might make her happier. So very angsty. I really loved it. Check this one out. Another historical is The Captain's Midwinter Bride, which is a novella, and it is really fun. I liked it. Our hero is a captain and he comes back, and I think he's retiring, and he has to really confront what he's put his wife through in not being home. And I thought that was really interesting because we don't see that a lot in historical romances, and I really liked how he realized what he put his family through by being gone all the time, and his daughter's getting married, and so just that stage of life as well. We also don't get a lot of how they have older children and they've been married for a long time, and usually with historical romances you can be stuck in these relationships where you don't really talk and you're just married because that's what you're supposed to have in that time period. And so I liked how they were trying to reconcile, and especially the hero understanding what his family was going through and winning his wife back. So it was a very sweet novella for a historical romance. Not so sweet but pretty steamy one is The Devil's Submission by Nicola Davidson. It's another novella and it's another historical, but this one is so good because our hero and heroine get married, and the hero pretty much like dumps his wife and never, like, dumps her off and never sees her again, and he has something that he is hiding from her, and it has to have relief sexually. So I don't want to spoil anything, but it does revolve around a pleasure club that the heroes all own, and so the hero in this one's one of the owners of that club. And our heroine's mother is embarrassed because our heroine's mother runs this like debutante society class thing to like raise proper ladies, and her own daughter is like obviously being shunned by her husband and just like forgotten. And so our heroine is finally like, I am done with this, I'm gonna go get my husband. So she leaves and goes and finds her husband and learns this thing about him and makes him open up about his past and what he needs, and decides to learn those things that her husband needs for what he had gone through. And I love that aspect about this book. While it's just a novella, there's so much emotion, and I love the heroine and what she was willing to go through and discover and do for her husband. So it was a really fun take on a historical, definitely very steamy. I recommend this whole series, but this one was great. Then I have Bitter Heat by Mia Knight. This one, the hero, I think is like in the mafia, and they actually are divorced, so he's the ex-husband, but then they have to spend time in the secluded cabin together, and then it goes from there. I don't remember too much about this book. I really need to reread this. I know I really enjoyed it, and I like that whole secluded aspect of it and how they have to confront things that went wrong. That's a common thing in marriage and trouble romances, where something has gone wrong in their relationship and they need to, one, uncover what that thing was that broke them apart, confront that thing, and then fix that thing. So I just remember really enjoying this and how mysterious the husband was, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I've heard a lot of my friends enjoy it. Like I said, I don't remember too much because I read it I think over a year ago, but this was another one that I would recommend. Then we have Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage by Jennifer Ashley. This one's book 2 in the Mackenzie McBride series, and I love this one so much. Cameron is not Cameron. That's the third book. What's her husband's name? Mac. I always get Cam and Mac mixed up. So Isabella caused a scandal when she got married. She was 18 and she ran away and got married, but now her and her husband are not speaking, and her husband is actually an artist, and I really loved his character. This one has a really strong family aspect as well. It follows all siblings, but in this one they're not speaking, but then the hero is an artist, and there comes this kind of like bet that he needs to paint his wife in the nude, and she takes on that challenge, and it forces them back together, and they are trying to discuss what had happened in their marriage. And I adore this series, and I remember really loving this one and how Isabella is such an interesting character, and I really loved her, especially like learning about the past in their relationship and then what brought them to where they are now, and having a hero who is an artist. And it was just really fun, and I love that whole she has to pose for him, adding a bit of sensuality to the relationship. It was just really good. And the last one I have is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. This one was really good. I know I'm ending on a very popular one, that's why I kept it to the end, but this one does deal with pregnancy, child loss, so please know that going into this one. But it starts out really interesting with our hero and our heroine flashing back to when they met, and they were actually dating other people who brought them together. That's all I want to say. I don't want to spoil it, but it is their relationship and what drove them apart, and it does flash back to when they were dating and falling in love to now when they are trying to reconcile. I really love when it has flashbacks. That's what Forget Me Not had as well. It did have flashbacks to when they started dating and how madly in love they were with each other, and Colleen writes so much emotion in her books. So I have not read this one in a while as well, but I remember just feeling so many emotions while reading it, and I vividly remember like the scene of them meeting because I thought it was just fantastic. So they do have to address their emotions about what happened to them, how they can open up to each other and support each other in the process, which is like what I said, a common thread through all of these books. And those are my favorite marriage and trouble romances. Let me know if you have any more. I would love to explore more of this trope. It is one of my favorites, and I just can't get enough of the angst and emotion behind it, and just the depth of the emotion, because these people go through such heartbreaking things and sometimes cannot support each other through it, and that's what breaks them apart, and they have to learn how to communicate and support each other. And so it's just one of my favorites. So like I said, let me know your recommendations, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.